Hi everyone, my name is Nikki with Yawns and Yarn. I am going to be showing you how to make a coaster. Very simple, easy project you can do in just a couple minutes. I like to use a cotton yarn because it's very absorbent. You're free to use whatever you want. Make sure you have the right kind of yarn for you and the right kind of hook size. This is what I'm going to be using today. And unfortunately, when I was getting this ready, it did have a yarn baby. So we've got some untangled yarn over there. Thankfully it untangled pretty easily. But there it is. That yarn usually has a yarn baby, but I'm not going to be too mad at it because it looks gorgeous once it's worked up. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to make a ring with a chain 3. Now you may want to make a magic circle. That's fine. I don't usually make one of those myself. I've never really gotten the hang of them, but whichever one works best for you, go ahead and do. If you're a newbie and you're not exactly sure what you want to do, I'm going to take you through it because like I said, this is a really easy project. You can do it in a couple minutes and then you'll have something pretty to look at. So what you want to do first is wrap your yarn around your 2 fingers, just like this. Grab your tail over here, have your little cross. You're going to put your hook underneath the first, grab the second, pull through, and tighten. Okay, I'll show you again. So wrap this around your 2 fingers. I like to leave a long tail because you're going to weave that in at the end. Under, pull this, and pull it tight. All right, that's how we're going to start. Now I have a very tight tension. Most of you are not going to have a tension this tight, and I understand that. So if you see my hands turning a funny color, my fingers in a strange position, just try and ignore it. Just know that it's something that I do. I can't help it, even though I want to. Sometimes when my hands are starting to cramp up, it's just my style, so I've learned to live with it. So after you get to this point, you're going to chain 3. Now to chain 3, you're going to yarn over, pull through, that's 1 chain, yarn over, pull through, that's 2, you can see them 1, 2, yarn over, pull 2, through, that's 3. You have your 3 little chains on. Easy peasy, right? Alright, once you've got that, what I like to do is I like to go into my first chain, yarn over, and then I hold on to these 2 because it's just easier for me with my tight tension, and I pull that through. Alright, so you can see here now you've got this little tiny itty bitty circle you've made with your 3 chains. Doesn't look great, but there it is. Alright, so now what you're going to do is you're going to continue on your merry way to make your coaster. Alright, and what most people like to do is they like to make their next stitches right in the center, right here. So that's the center of this little 3 chain thing that we made, right? And most people really like to make their stitches in here. I don't. This kind of like pulls out and it really bothers me. So, you know, everyone's going to have their own little ways of doing things, whatever's comfortable for you. I'm going to go in here, all right, which is not the center. We can see this is not the center of our little chain thing. It's actually in the middle of our second chain that we just made, but that is where I'm more comfortable doing it. You do whichever works for you, but you are following along with me, so just know you can do it in either place. It doesn't matter. All right, so your first stitch is just going to be a chain 2. That is going to count as your first double crochet. 1, 2. All right, we're going to do 12 total. So we've got 1, chain, oops, excuse me, yarn over, put it through your spot, middle, stitch, whichever feels best for you, and pull through. Yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the first 2. That's your second stitch, and you can see this is where all the rest of yours are going to go. And don't worry, when you pull on this at the end, it is going to tighten this, and then once you weave this in, you'll weave it in so that it stays tight. All right, so we've got 1, 2, and I said 12 total, so we've got 10 more to go. So yarn over, insert into the middle, yarn over. This is a yarn over. I know it's kind of weird, you're kind of just grabbing it, but that is a yarn over. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. All right, now I've got 3. I'm just going to go ahead and go. You pause if you need to. All right, pretty sure that's 12. I'm going to count to make sure. All right, so I've got 1. There's my chain 2, counts as my first one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You can also count these up here. It's just a little bit harder to see the top of your chain 2 when you do it that way, but this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Now I pull my center tight, see? Can't even tell. All right, your next step to finish this row is going to be to slip stitch into the top of your chain 2 space. So for that, you put your hook through, you're yarning over, which is just a grab at this angle. Pull through. You're not going to yarn over again, you're just going to pull right through there. All right. Look at you, you've got the teeniest, tiniest little coaster ever. Oh, what could we set on there? Dollhouse? Make a very cute dollhouse rug, wouldn't it? All right, but we're making a coaster, so we're going to keep going. All right, so the next row is going to have 2 stitches in each of our previous stitches. All right, now some people, after they do their first chain 2, which is going to count as their first stitch, they'll go ahead and put another stitch in right here to make their 2 right here. I like to save my second stitch for this row to go in right here at the end. Again, like I said, everyone's got their little things they like to do. This is how I like to do this kind. So if you're used to putting it here and right afterwards, go ahead. If you like to put it in at the end, go ahead and do that, as long as there are 2 in each, and at the end of the row you have 24, because we're just doubling the last row. All right, so here we go. We're going to chain 2. We're going to do a double crochet into this stitch, and then we're going to add a second one in there. So we've got 2 in this stitch from the previous row. You're going to do that all the way around, 2 in each. here is where I put my last one. That will be the second to this chain. It's going to go right here. It's a little weird. I don't think most people put theirs there, but I always have, and I always will. It'll look weird, like there's a little spot here, but that'll close up when we do our slip stitch to the top of this chain 2 spot. All right. See? All right, now we've got 12, 24. We're increasing each round by 12 stitches because that's what we started here. You can do things like this. You can do increases where your center only has 10, then this row will have 20, then the next row will have 30. You'll increase by 10 each time. I always do 12. It's how I learned. And unless I'm using really, really, really thick yarn, I usually stick with 12. Sometimes the thicker yarn, you just can't get 12 stitches into this little hole and close it really tight. So to increase the next row by 12, what you're going to do is you're going to have every other row, every other stitch, will be a single. The stitch beside it will have a double. So this chain is just going to stay single. It does not have a partner anymore. But this stitch right beside it is going to be a pair. All right. And sometimes I lose track, but in my head while I'm stitching, I usually have a little kind of rhythm to it. So I'll say 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 as I go through. So that way I remember that I'm doing 1 and then 2, 3 together. That just helps me as I'm going around, especially if the kids are in the back and they're screaming something at me. I don't want to have to count to 36. I'd rather just have to count to 3. That way when they're asking me endless questions, in my head I'll say, all right, I was on 2, so that must mean I need a 3. It works out much better for me. If you'd rather count to 36 as you go around, please do that. Again, crocheting is all about being comfortable and working your yarn the way it feels best to you. Holding your hook the way it feels best to you. Using the kind of yarn that works best for you. This is a creative craft. You do not have to follow anyone's set rules for what you're doing. And for those of you who are new, this is also how you start a simple beanie pattern. This is how you're going to increase. And what you'll do is, as soon as your circle diameter measures a certain length, which you can find graphs online, little charts online that will tell you how big it needs to be for certain sized heads. After it reaches that diameter, you will then just crochet 1 stitch around in each stitch in the row. So say you ended on a row with 72 stitches in it. You would have 72 stitches in each of your next rows going all the way down until your hat measured the length you needed it to be. Does that make sense? Maybe I'll make a video about that as well. Let's say I wanted to make a tiny hat for a tiny little baby right now. Baby doll, that is. I would just, instead of doing any more increases, my next row after this would have 36, the next one would have 36, the next one would have 36, until eventually my hat would be top here all the way down to the bottom. So I'll measure the length I needed. And of course, for a baby doll hat, that wouldn't take long. That's another quick project that works up really fast. If you're kind of an instant gratification type of gal like I am, or guy, you would really like a project like that. I always have trouble getting my stitch in here. All right, I made my 36, and now we are going to slip stitch again, and now we have 36. All right, so I'm going to do one more increase on this. This yarn is really thin. It's not what I usually use for my coasters, but I really like how it looks. I wish some of the green were going to pop up into this, but we're not going to get there on this one. So I have made a hat with this before though. It looks really neat. So another increase row, if we had singles, doubles, and then threes, this one's going to have 4. So in my head again, to keep my count as I go around, so I don't have to count out 48 stitches in this row, which is what you're going to need, I go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 in my head as I go around. Helps me keep track, and I don't have to count to 48 again while the kids are going bananas. Or if I'm watching some, maybe some true crime, I don't have to think about what count I'm on too much, and I can kind of focus on the story. Anyone else like true crime out there? I know, that's a little dark. I also really like sitcoms, and I'm also really into Star Trek. We all contain multitudes, right? All right. So in my head, I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4. Always know those quicker counts go in the same stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, I've got my 48 now, and I'm going to, again, slip stitch into the top of the chain 2. Ooh, yeah. All right, now that's a pretty good size coaster. Your coffee cup will fit right on here as long as you don't have a jumbo mug, and if you do, I'm very jealous. I'd love a jumbo mug, especially right now. Let's see. So you can keep it this size. If you want a bigger coaster, you can keep going. You know that the next round is going to have 60. You're going to have groups of 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as you go around. Remember that 4, 5 is going to be in the same stitch. I find it really helpful. Maybe you don't. That's okay. You can also kind of jazz it up a bit if you'd like, and I'm going to wing this because I don't actually remember how I did it, but let's see if I can figure it out. So chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'm going to skip 2 stitches and slip stitch into here. All right, let me see that this works. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Probably not the time or place to be experimenting, right? 2, 5, 6. But it'll be fun. We'll see if it works. 5, 6, and slip stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and slip stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. I should probably just count in my head, right? Is that annoying everybody else? Sorry, part of this yarn baby is bunching up right here. There we go. It'd be pretty embarrassing if I get to the end this doesn't work. That can be our little secret though. It's gonna work. We did it. We did it, everyone. It worked out for me. I don't have to be embarrassed. All right, so this adds just a little bit of something extra to it. I really like how it looks to make one of these, and when your cup's sitting on it, you can just see the little outline edges here, and it looks really pretty, like your cup's sitting on a little flower. I don't know, we all need something a little fancy in life, right? So that is my tutorial on how to make a very simple coaster. All you'll do after this is pull some yarn out here. I'd cut it about this length. You're going to weave in your ends. I always weave in my ends on the back side here. If you're new, finding the backside might seem very confusing. I didn't know there was a backside for a couple years. Sometimes the backside looks prettier to me. Go with whichever side looks best to you. Again, that's what crochet is all about. You'll also weave in your little tail you had here at the end if you haven't already. I know most crocheters like to leave the terrible deed of weaving in ends to the end, and I am also one of those. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was helpful, and I hope you make a lot of cute little coasters for everyone you love. Goodbye.